Alright, before we start this video off, let me have a word about my sponsors. Like to drink? Like cats? Or perhaps you want a good pizza? If so, come visit the Cat's Tail Tavern with the best drinks in the city, made by none other than our genius bartender, Diona. And if you aren't in the mood for drinks, then perhaps you'd like to eat some food, or maybe you want to relax with cats here. Come visit us in Mondstadt City, and just have a good time. Now, I'd like to thank today's sponsors for, that little sponsor that we got. Anyway, why don't we move on to the video? Today's video is going to be about the Hamayumi Bow from the Inazuma set weapons, or its actual set name, the Amethyst set. The bow itself is kind of annoying to get, but, it isn't too hard to get. It'll take about a week to do. Probably going to have to spend around 10 minutes, maybe even less than that, to actually do it. So why don't we move on to actually how to obtain the weapon. So in order to obtain this weapon, you need to go to this location at Kanazuka Island. Best way is to teleport to this teleport point and just glide forward a little bit. The bow can be obtained by doing this guy's bidding and following his orders. You need to find 3 mysterious conch shells each day and hand it over to him. Do note that you can actually find more than 3 mysterious conch shells each day. You can't get more than 1 reward, but you can get more than 3 mysterious conch shells each day. After you do that, you have a choice to open any of these 3 chests. I'm not exactly sure if you can obtain it right away, or if you need to be lucky with the weapon blueprint, but I got mine after about a week and a half due to me kind of forgetting some days. But after doing this for about a week, you can eventually get this weapon blueprint. The weapon stats has the same stats as the Inazuma sword. It has a low base attack of 454, but its secondary stat is a high 55.1%. Personally, I don't usually like the low base attack and high attack percent, because I feel like you lose out to weapons that have a higher base attack with, maybe a lower attack percent, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But that isn't the only thing that, the weapon has. It also has its skill, which it's called the Full Draw, and the skill description itself is increases normal attack damage by 16% and charge attack damage by 12%. When the equipping character's energy reaches 100%, this effect is increased by 100%. The normal attack can go up to 32%, and the charge attack goes up to 24% at Refinement Rank 5. The damage you get from this is, nice and solid as a free-to-play weapon, and since it's a free-to-play weapon, getting it to R5 isn't super hard. The only problem is that the billets take quite a bit of time since it's luck-based, and it's pretty rare to get the billet that you actually want. With that out of the way, why don't I move on to my thoughts on the actual weapon itself. Like I said earlier in the video, the weapon stats kind of bother me a little bit. The low base attack for high attack percent isn't my favorite. This is more of my own bias and what I think, rather than actual any concrete evidence or calculations. But I just feel like a weapon like this, low base attack, high attack percent, loses out to higher base attack, low attack percent, because a base attack stacks differently on a DPS cal. But that is just me. If you do have any evidence that says differently, then go ahead and show me, tell me, or just prove me wrong in the comment sections. It doesn't really matter too much to me. Other than my, personal bias, the stats are nice. The secondary stat of attack percent is usually great because it works on mostly every DPS type of character, since, it's not like Elemental Mastery where you need to kind of figure out what character's Elemental Mastery works on. It's a lot more different with attack percent, this can stack up, just on basically any DPS character. And it's just a nice and solid secondary stat. Now, there is its skill, and the skill itself has a few problems that I have with it, and why don't I talk about the first one, which is the full energy problem. You need full energy to get the max boost effect, and I didn't mention this before, but the Prototype Crescent actually does more DPS than the Hamayumi Bow if the Hamayumi Bow actually doesn't have its full boost effect, or the full energy, when it's doubles its own skill effect, which is a pretty big thing when, most of the bow characters that you would be using this bow on use their burst. There's Yoimiya, Child, Ganyu, and Fischl who I'd use this on, and the only character out of those 4 characters that don't use their burst is Yoimiya. Yoimiya's burst doesn't do a whole lot of damage, so you won't really be missing out. With Child, Ganyu, and Fischl, you're going to be using their bursts quite a bit. Child for nice DPS, you know, when you just take care of a group. Ganyu for that sub DPS permafreeze and that constellation effect if you do have a constellation. And also Fischl. Gonna use Fischl for that constant Oz for DPS, sub DPS, battery, and you know, just electro damage if you want electro damage, but doesn't really matter too much when it comes to that. And you know, as you can see, if you use your burst, you know, you're not gonna get the double effect. So at that point, what's the point of using the Hamayumi Bow when you can just use the prototype crescent instead? Though the Hamayumi Bow is a lot more simpler to use because its skill effect is a lot more simple than the prototype crescent, since with the prototype crescent I'm pretty sure you have to hit a weak spot, but you know, that isn't too much of a problem to do. Luckily there aren't too many enemies that don't have a weak spot. It's usually just the slimes and all that stuff. Most other enemies have a weak spot, but that is, you know, a downside to the Hamayumi Bow. Another downside, or not really a downside, but just a little bit of a problem that I see, is that like there's not enough bow characters that actually use normal attack and charge attack, so the skill itself is kind of redundant in that way where you're not going to be really using it to its full effect, using both normal attack and charge attack, because I feel like if you're sacrificing a burst, you should be able to use both normal attack and charge attack, but there's only two characters that actually use their normal attack and charge attack. That would be Child and Yoimiya. And the thing is, Child would only be using it with his melee stance, and Yoimiya, her charge attack isn't good at all. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage. For the amount of time that you have to wait for Yoimiya's actual charge attack to do damage, it's not worth it for you know, how long it takes, the damage that you get from it, because you do around, if you have a good Yoimiya build or a decent Yoimiya build, you know, it's around 16,000 damage from the charge attack, and then counting the obviously fireworks that come out of it, it's around 2 to 3k, which adding that all up, you get 3 fireworks, 16k, that's around what, 22k damage, but it takes quite a bit to actually charge up. Compare that to, you know, Ganyu, but you know, Ganyu already you don't even have to use this bow. I would say it might be better just to use the prototype crescent because you get her burst. But that's one of the problems I see with this bow. It's not really a downside, but more of there's not really any bow characters that can take advantage of this full effect. Because I totally understand the weakness of not having your burst in order to get a boost for normal attack and charge attack, but right now there's not enough characters that can actually take advantage of that effect. Now, there are different bows that you can use, and comparisons to be drawn to different bows. And one of the comparisons that you can actually draw to is the Rust. The Rust boosts normal attack damage, but takes away charge attack damage. But the Rust does better damage than the Hamayumi Bow, even if the Hamayumi Bow does have its full effect. So, if you want normal attack damage, you want more normal attack damage, more damage, you know, just higher DPS, and you want it to use your burst, use the Rust instead because it does do more damage than the Hamayumi Bow. Other weapons such as the compound bow, crescent, like I said before, with the prototype crescent, it does do more damage than the Hamayumi Bow if the Hamayumi Bow doesn't have its full effect. The compound bow, I'm not entirely sure about, but I'm pretty sure the compound bow is just better if you want to do physical damage with the character, and you know, that would be really only Fischl right now. A better free-to-play replacement than the Hamayumi Bow, especially since you can actually use your burst too. And there are other bows like the Verdescent Hunt, Blackcliff Bow for that crit damage, and yeah, there are other bows that you can use instead, so do note that. And also there's also Fischl's bow, which is very, very nice. And this is where I'll start beginning to talk about my final thoughts. Now, I have a lot of mixed feelings with this weapon. It's not a terrible weapon, but it's just that right now I feel like you can't really take advantage of its effects. There's its downside, which is a perfectly understandable downside, but it's just that right now there's no characters that can really take advantage of the normal attack and charge attack damage that you can do with it. I'm hoping that any future bow character that comes out can really use both normal attack and charge attacks. But at the moment right now, there isn't much, and it's just too big of a sacrifice on one of the characters. And on Yoimiya, the charge attack like just isn't really worth going for, honestly. All it needs to be known is that right now, the Hamayumi Bow isn't really a safe option. There's just better options for free-to-play options like the Prototype Crescent and the Compound Bow in some situations. Personally, I would rather choose the Prototype Crescent and just build that to Refinement Rank 5. Anyway, I'm glad you made it to the end of the video. I'm sorry it took more than a week to kind of make a video, but hey, I'm trying to make another video after this one to kind of work as an apology. This one took a little bit to make because honestly, I'm not very proud of the commentary that comes out of this. I probably need to make a better script, honestly, but that's something I need to work on. Anyway, if you don't know this, I stream on Twitch. I stream Genshin daily. That's really all. I hope you guys have a good one, and peace out.